This is Lawrence Martin. He was an Army captain and an elementary school teacher. His physical injuries from that day were visible. His internal scars were not. Tonight, a fifth grader's journey to learn more about her beloved teacher and how April 19th changed his life forever.
U.S. Army recruiting. We were on the same floor as the snack bar.
Vicki Ham worked on the 4th floor of the Murrah building in the Army recruiting office alongside Captain Lawrence Martin.
If you see him across the room and he smiles at you, then you smile great big because it's almost like a connection. That's the kind of person he was.
Vicki happened to be at a doctor's appointment the morning of April 19th, but she heard and felt the blast.
And I looked back south, and that's when I saw the front of the Murrah building, and it was just blown away.
Captain Martin survived, but sustained life-altering injuries. Glass tore through tendons in his arm and severely damaged his eye.
He always had a positive attitude, even when he was hurt and he came to work, and you know, he had scars and cuts, and I kind of thought he was in pain.
And years later, Vicki played a role in Captain Martin testifying at the McVeigh trial.
I had to speak up because Captain Martin was very well spoken. I said, I know a good witness for you.
Captain Martin did testify, bravely sharing his pain with the courtroom, the world, all while sitting in the same room as the man who tried to kill him. We wanted to know more about Captain Martin's specific testimony. So we went through the Oklahoman archives at the Oklahoma History Center. It was former U.S. Army Captain Lawrence Martin's turn to tell them what the bomb destroyed. A co-worker ripped off his necktie and wrapped it around Martin's bleeding wrist. He had severed 12 tendons, 2 nerves, and an artery. Virtually my Army career is over. The article also details Captain Martin meeting with Sergeant Bill Titsworth, who was transferred to OKC. He had stopped by the office April 19th, a couple of weeks early, to introduce himself and his family, including his young daughter Kayla, who was killed. Captain Martin was discharged from the Army due to injuries sustained that day.
He was a former Army officer. At the point in time I met him, I interviewed him for a teaching position I had open here at Cleghorn Elementary School.
Captain Martin became Mr. Martin in August of 1998 as Cleghorn principal Bill Powell hired him to be a 5th grade teacher.
He had taught previously before he went into the Army, and so he did have a background of understanding children, and that came forth in his interview.
Early on, Mr. Martin created chess club for his 5th graders, including me. So this was chess club, and here he is playing with, and then yeah.
There you are.
That's me. And I remember vividly the first day of class, Mr. Martin telling us about the bombing, his lasting injuries, and even sharing photos from his personal collection. And these were his copies?
Yes. So these are pictures of the building after the bombing, and literally almost immediately after the bombing.
Yeah. And I remember him, did he show, I think he showed these to us.
Yes, he would have shown them to you.
I remember he wanted us to know who he was and why he had the injuries that he did. Mr. Martin died just a couple of days after the chess club photo was taken.
The wreckage is almost unrecognizable.
Our KOCO cameras on scene of the crash near Memorial and MacArthur.
The single-engine Cessna plummeted propeller first into the ground. The impact tore the plane to pieces and killed its pilot instantly.
As I'm talking with you, I'm getting a sense that you kind of had a soft spot for him.
Oh, well, I did. Maybe it's because he reminded me of his son.
Investigators ruling the cause suicide.
He seemed so happy with his life. And he seemed to have a strong desire to live. You know, I never saw anything that made me think that something like that might happen to him.
Lawrence Martin, beloved 5th grade teacher, former U.S. Army captain, and OKC bombing survivor, died October 11th, 1998, at 41 years old.
It's the hardest thing as a principal I ever dealt with.
Do you think the bombing played a role in his death.
Absolutely, because as much as he was a successful teacher, his true love was serving in the Army. And he couldn't continue because he had medical disabilities because of that. I don't know in the late 1990s that the term PTSD would be something that would have been used as prevalent as it is now. He was stressed by what had happened.
In preparation for this story, I got out my 5th grade folder with items I haven't seen in 25 years. I got an A. Abby, good story, Mr. Martin. Abby, you are learning to be a real leader, Mr. Martin. And then week 9 is empty. I also reached out to my former 5th grade classmates. Josh described Mr. Martin as fun and supportive, and he feels lucky to have had him as a teacher. Emmy said Mr. Martin quickly captured our hearts and described him as patriotic.
He was a gentleman and a gentleman because he truly was polite and kind and deserving of respect for what he lived through.
After his death, Vicki donated Captain Martin's uniforms and his boots to the National Memorial and Museum as a reminder of those who survived that day but carried the scars forever. What did the world miss out on once he was no longer here?
Well, they missed out on knowing such a wonderful person that carried peace and happiness with him in his soul. It radiated from him. And that's what they missed out on, is knowing the real Captain Martin.